Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is MurphsLife. He's elevating 100K families from poverty to self-sufficiency, one story at a time. It's El Salvador's favorite nonprofit. He's wildly popular on Instagram, where he shares his adventures and the stories of the locals across Latin America. I've been aware of MurphsLife for probably several years at this point, and I'm happy to have him on the podcast. Murph, how you
Hey
doing?
man, thanks for having me, brother. I'm doing good. Just got to my farm here. I'm in my truck, so we don't hear all the loud saws and everything going off. But yeah, man, appreciate you for inviting me on here.
Yeah. And by the way, we're recording audio only. So for the audience, I normally don't record podcasts with people in the truck, and I would say like, yo, let's reschedule when you're in an office or something. But I guess it kind of goes with what you're doing, right? So you're on the
Yeah.
farm, you're in El Salvador. What's the project for today?
The project is, man, we're building. We're just building everything. We are, and my office is like a shed we put together. It's not even, you know what I mean. I don't have any like people think office. They're gonna think something like in the city. We just have some scrap metal we put together on top of a shipping container here in the corner. But we're building a restaurant, little boutique hotel, little coffee shop. We're building a farmer's market. We're building out a giant new garden with the terraces right now, and we're building a school all at the same time on our farm. So I'm just running back and forth, back and forth. We have about 90 employees. So it's right now it's just pure chaos, but we're getting it done. We're trying to open up this December.
And what are you opening in December?
It's we're building a community. We're basically building a micro economy for the community of Los Naranjos. So I've, as you've known, like following our nonprofit throughout the years, we take one family and we do a little mini 1 minute documentary on them. People donate, and then we generally fix up their house, build them a house. But then the most important thing is we build them a business. As we've evolved in the foundation, we've done things in Mexico and Ecuador where we take small communities and
Hmm.
we build them little micro economies for their communities. So, for example, there was a community in Mexico where we spent a $500,000 on a small indigenous community. We built them 12 Airbnbs in Oaxaca, right across the beach. We bought a whole bunch of motorcycles, four wheelers, and created like rental services. We also did a laundromat for the tourists, and we changed their lives. We took these families from some making $5 a day to 150, $200 a day, and now we're doing it on a bigger scale where we're helping out an entire community here in the mountains of coffee workers. And these people
Mm.
generally make $75 biweekly, which is extreme poverty. And so now that's what we're doing. We're spending about $3 million on this mountain, and it comes with everything. So they're going to have quality education in the school, a farmer's market. We're helping plant food in old folks' homes. We're showing them with the limited space that they have in their homes, fruits and berries, things that people will buy that we're going to sell for them in the farmer's market. Um, yeah, that's basically it. And then everyone working for the farm here is going to have we're setting up like a retirement plan for them. So everyone working here is basically an owner in on the farm. So at the end of the month, we're going to have a small percentage that will go into everyone's account. We're going to put a little bit of Bitcoin and then obviously US dollar. And they won't be able to touch that for they can choose between 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Um, I mean, they can pull it out if they want, but it's a way that in 5 years, 10 years, as the dollar kind of deflates and Bitcoin continues to rise, um,
Hmm.
we want to create a really cool program that will show these people, how they can stop living in shacks, and we can help them buy their own property. You know what I mean? Invest in their own. You know, we're teaching them how to build Airbnbs, for example, on top of their homes if they have really cool views. That's basically it. We're building an economy, a microeconomy here to elevate quite a few families.
Hmm. And I encourage people as they listen to this conversation or even pause this conversation and go check out the Instagram to get a better feel for how Murph does it. I think it's quite unique. I think it's really one of the only, I mean, I don't see, there's probably other accounts that do this, but the way that you share these stories, the way that you incorporate sort of mini documentary filmmaking to get the audience invested in these families. And then you almost do like a mini GoFundMe or a fundraiser. You're constantly fundraising, right? And
Yeah.
you put the money directly towards helping these families. I saw one where you were like buying Barbie dolls. Sounds like you're trying to do things that are more, teaching them how to fish than actually just giving them a fish, which is probably the right approach. So yeah, I encourage people to check it out so they kind of know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, our two focuses right now are Instagram and now Twitter X. I mean, we're on everything. I started on TikTok. We're at about 6 million followers on TikTok, but I'm kind of sick of TikTok right now. They muted like 20 videos. If there's anything that they flag that they think is false information, they just freeze videos, which is really annoying. So now we're just kind of focusing on Instagram and Twitter. But yeah, man, that's basically what we do. We take. I find for anyone that wants to, a lot of people ask me like, Aaron, I want to do what you do, or how do I want to live abroad and help the community out. So if anyone listening has an interest in that, my biggest advice is focus on one family. Find your superhero in a community, and really just make a video about that one person, and then you can say how by helping that one person, it can help out the community or their family or their school. Because I think we grow up listening to the infomercials about the hungry kids in Africa with the swollen bellies, and there's so much pain and suffering going on in the world. We know that millions of people, millions of kids are dying a year from cancer and from wars and from, the human brain is just set up to not constantly be crying over the suffering of millions of people. But if you create a story, a relatable story with one person, and you can get that person to connect with that one person, that's kind of the the what do you call it, the power behind storytelling. You know what I mean? Focusing on one person, and that's what we
Hmm.
do. That's why we say one story at a time. And I love it because we have, for example, our school, we raised about $200,000 now, a little over $200,000, using the story of one little girl. She had to walk 2 hours to get to school.
Mm.
And by doing that, we built her a beautiful home on our farm, and literally like 10 feet in front of her house, we're building the school. So she no longer has to walk to school. We're naming the school after her. She got a brand new house out of it. Her father, I can see him right now on the farm. He's working, planting flowers, you know. And because of her, yeah, we're building an awesome school for an entire community. So that's kind of the secret sauce of Murph's life.
Cool. Well, I'd love to take a step back and hear more a little bit about the backstory. So I think you mentioned you're a Canadian American dual citizen.
Yeah. I was born in northern Alberta, a little town called Hythe, outside of Beaver Lodge near Grand Prairie. Um,
Hmm.
until I was about 14, 15 years old, we moved to the States. We moved to Utah. And from there, I lived in Utah for a little bit in California, um, you know, and now I've lived in Latin America for about 8, 9 years. Between Brazil for a few years, I lived in Ecuador for a few years, Colombia, Paraguay, Mexico for a year, El Salvador. Quite a few
Hmm.
countries.
I would have expected more of a Canadian accent for rural Alberta. Did the Americans beat it out of you, or what
Dude,
happened?
they really did. I got made fun of so much in high school. It's ingrained in my brain. A boot, a boot, a boot. Ah,
That
it's
kind of happened to me too when I started spending more time in the US and I stopped saying process and started saying process, things
uh-huh.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, anytime I had any bit of accent in my high school, it just roasted me, and it just slowly, still, we're just products of our environment, so it got taken out of my accent.
So I reached out to El Chad in preparation for this conversation. I've actually hung out with El Chad a couple different times, and
We love
gotten dinner
Chad.
with him, gone to a baseball game and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he told me to ask you about your past life before you became Murph's life. And honestly don't even know what that meant. So maybe
Yeah.
you could walk me through what your past life is and how that brought you into what you're doing today.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I grew up very LDS Mormon. I did a Mormon mission in Brazil, and that's kind of like what brought that desire for me to return back to Central South America. But as soon as I got back from my LDS mission, I'm like 20, 21 years old, and I started throwing parties in college because I'm not the study type. I hated going to school, and anyway, I found money in that. It's like I'm 23, 24 years old. I made 25, $30,000 on just throwing a college dance party, and that's when I was like, I'm never going back to school. But eventually, it just turned into just straight up partying, man. I found myself like 26, 27, and I'm just doing like, we had like a plate of ketamine and cocaine and ecstasy, and this is like a daily thing, just getting drunk off my ass every night, constantly at different nightclubs, at different festivals. And so anyway, there's a million stories in that of just near death experiences and just wild crazy shit. But I had a couple close calls, and I lost a lot of friends too, whether they went to prison or they OD'd. And then it just got to a point where after I got really really close to death a few times, I sobered up, and that was like, what year is that? 2018. I'm sober, and after 1 year of sobriety, I for nothing, no alcohol, no drugs, um, to kind of celebrate. We went to a Diplo concert, and I'm like, I'm gonna smoke weed. It's been a year. I'm gonna celebrate. And so I smoked, and everyone's like, "Ah, Murph," because I was the party guy, dude. I was the one who would be like, "We're staying up 2, 3 days." I would meet a stranger in a club, and they'd be like, this is like one example. Like I'd be blacked out, and then they're like, we're working on oil pipelines up in North Dakota, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna come with you guys. And I woke up in Wyoming in the back of a truck of a stranger. Like, what the hell is going on? And just ended up, So that was it. It was very wild, you know. Um, but yeah, so I sobered up, and this is kind of how it turned into Murph's life. I smoked weed at this concert, but everyone's like, "Oh, Murph is smoking," so everyone's handing me their little, their weed pens, the joints, And I got so high, it like triggered a massive panic attack in me, and I'm just like, I can't breathe. I'm, in the middle of this crowd, and I just
Mm.
had this like crazy, crazy like epiphany, that kind of cleansed the anxiety from me, saying like, I don't live here anymore. I'm going to South America, and it was just like boom, and I think that anxiety was triggered from like, I don't want to go back to that old life, from being that high. And that was it, man. It was just my life before Murph's life was the complete opposite. It was selfish. It was just self gratification, um, to now serving others. So yeah.
And how long between the panic attack at the concert and Latin America? Like, how quickly did you book that flight?
Dude, it was like the next day. So I told everyone. I called my family. Um, I still remember it. I was like, because I used to smoke so many cigarettes and like, the vape pens. And so when that happened, I grabbed a can of chew, I bought a pack of cigarettes, and I'm just smoking and smoking. I wanted to get it all out of my system. And so I go to my apartment, And I remember I'm just puking my guts out in the shower. I'm like, just barf is all over me, dude. It was like a horror movie. And but it was like I could feel this like purge. And I called my sister and my brother and I'm like, hey, come get everything from my apartment. I don't want anything. You know, my mom calls me the next day. She's like, hey, these are signs of suicide. I'm like, no, it's not that, I promise. Um, and my mom worked for JetBlue at the time. I'm like, hey, give me a ticket. What's the furthest place I can go? And at the time for JetBlue, it was Bogota, Colombia. She gets me a flight to Bogota, and I found out I had to renew my passport. So the that same day, I go to California to renew my passport. So it was the same day. I was in Utah at the time, and I went into Irvine, California, stayed at a friend's while I'm just like speed renewing my passport. And while I was waiting a few weeks there, I just worked for his like trash removal company with illegal Mexicans, and that's where I started learning Spanish with them, practicing. And then
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of in what's that place called right after San Diego in Mexico?
Tijuana.
Yeah, I was in Tijuana, and then as soon as because Tijuana you just go through the border, and then as soon as that passport came, boom, we I was in Colombia, and I've only been back to the states once since 2018, 2019.
Really?
Yeah, this is full time. I don't plan on going back. Don't plan on going back to Canada. You know, we have three farms now. We have almost 200 acres of farmland between here and the Amazon and Ecuador and Colombia. We have a donor gave us a farm in Costa Rica now, 15 minutes
Wow.
from the airport. It's crazy. It's worth millions of dollars, and they've entrusted us to do the same. So that's kind of our 2026 plan, is building that out. Um, so yeah, this is the full time gig now.
Tell me about some of the pivotal moments in the early days. Did you kind of hook up with the Mormons in the beginning, or did you kind of strike out on your own?
I mean, I grew up very Mormon, and like I said, I did a Mormon mission in Brazil, and in the LDS religion, you do your mission between 19 and 21. They just changed it from 18 to 20 now, but so basically, like from high school, and then you go for 2 years, and then you come back, and then you only do it once, and then you just go to college, get married, and live a normal life. But it was I phased out of it just from the wild partying in my life, and that was that's kind of what it's I'm not active in the church right now, but it's definitely like kind of shaped a lot of uh of my spiritual life now, as in like I work in my work. I'm constantly in prayer. I'm constantly asking how to be wise with the money, how to spend the money. Constantly, in that sense, which I'm very grateful for.
Hmm.
But I don't go to any churches. I don't.
But so you started in Bogota, which is kind of a dangerous first destination for someone that's trying to go clean. Um, and then
Yeah.
how did you kind of make things happen once you got back to Latin America post Epiphany? How did you get from the JetBlue flight to where you are now?
So I got there with a backpack. I had no idea where I was gonna stay. I had no plan, but I was just excited for an adventure. So I said I was gonna go for 3 months. That's what I said. 90 days. I'm gonna backpack and just chill. So we get to Bogota. My buddy went with me for the first month. We just stayed in hostels, stayed in Airbnbs, and I brought a little tiny camera, Sony camera, with me, and I started like filming people in the streets because I wanted to learn a new skill. I wanted to learn how to like. I love documentaries, so I was like, I'm gonna make little documentaries of people in the streets, and this is gonna be my way to learn Spanish. So I would go out and I would film, and there's a ton of at the time Venezuelan immigrants just begging in the streets. So every single day I would like meet a new person, I would share a meal with them, and then I would just talk to them, and try to understand what the hell they're saying. And a lot of them, I would film it, and then I would go to like a coffee shop with my laptop, and I would just listen and try to like Google Translate, like what the hell are they saying? And then I would put subtitles on those videos. And a lot of it I didn't upload. A lot of it I uploaded. Some of it I uploaded on my YouTube channels. My very first, when I had like 200 subscribers, it was all just family friends. So that's kind of like how I learned Spanish. But we grew pretty quickly. It only took me about a year and a half to grow maybe 6 million subscribers on TikTok. Um, and that was all because of COVID. And I think that's where a lot of creators kind of spawned from was COVID. Everyone is just sitting at home bored, and so it kind of forced people to be creative, or it forced people just to become extreme consumers. And
Hmm.
so it was COVID broke out. The day that COVID broke out, I was backpack. I got back from Brazil to back to Colombia. My friend already left, and I'm just like kind of hitchhiking, going on buses from Colombia. I get into Ecuador from Ipiales to Tulcan, Ecuador,
Hmm.
and the next day I didn't even know what COVID was. The next day, everything was shut down. There was no buses, planes, anything in this tiny town. And I ended up staying between this old lady's house and this like really, really just busted up uh, apartment complex for Venezuelans. I mean, it was nasty. There's no other word. I stayed in tiny like a towel closet that just reeked of mold and piss, and we found a little mattress outside in a dumpster, leaning against a dumpster, and I slept on that. Um, and that's kind of what I did, for like the 4 or 5 months to travel around Ecuador. I made friends with the semi truck drivers. They were the only ones that are able to travel, so I'd hide in the little bed, and it was cool. I loved that time. For a lot of people, it's scary, and for me, I literally felt like, I felt like I was like the monkey on Aladdin, just like on this wild adventure, running through streets, hiding from police, because you're not allowed to travel, and and I uploaded a lot of it on my Instagram story, which was just friends, and
Hmm.
my sister and some other friends were like, "Yo, you got your Instagram stories are wild. You should upload it on TikTok." And I was just like fighting against. I'm like, TikTok is a freaking pedophile app. It's just little girls dancing. And my sister and my friend were like, "Well, we're gonna make a TikTok account for you." And they started like uploading some of my YouTube videos and my stories, and it's like they would get like 50,000, 100,000 views, and I was like, "Holy crap!" Like, my YouTube videos only get like 500 views. And so I started uploading a few videos of that. And then my aunt started sending me like $500 a month every month. She's like, "Hey, go feed those people, in your people are like starving to death, dude. Like no one could work, it was pretty gnarly. No one's getting these free checks from the government down here. So I'm like going and buying like grocery carts of food and I'm posting on my Instagram story. And it was genuine. Like I loved it. I was like, "Hey guys, my aunt sent me this money. Check out what we're doing," and it was like really, I see a lot of videos, and sometimes even me, I'm like, when you're like burned out and you don't want to do videos, but you're like, you got to do videos, and it kind of for me, why I slowed down too on TikTok is like I just started feeling like this isn't genuine. I don't want to just hand someone money to get views to keep it going. But at that moment, it was so pure, dude. It was like I'm grateful that my aunt and my family and friends are sending me, a few $1,000s a month, and I'm like, look what you guys are doing, and that's what really started to grow the page. And until one day, I'm like, shit, there's $20,000 in my Venmo, so it grew from there from COVID.
So you started just kind of like filming normal wild situations of, being in crappy hostels and this kind of thing. And then how did it start becoming like giving money to people? Was it from the beginning, or is that something that came a little bit into the journey?
No, it came like I was saying, it came through COVID where I'm showing, what's going on, my living situation. Then it was friends and my aunt started sending me money. They're like, "Hey, create a Patreon." So we created a Patreon. They started sending
They
money.
they send you money to donate.
Yeah, to donate to these people. They loved seeing it on my Instagram stories. But my
Okay.
TikTok and my Instagram originally were like and I went through and deleted those videos to keep it on par now with the subject. But before, it was like me sneaking through borders with people, and like I was like staying with a group of Venezuelans for like a month in the park. It was totally different,
In
dude.
the
It was,
park.
it
That
was
sounds
wild.
dangerous. That sounds dangerous.
Yeah. And I was like with new semi truck drivers, and I'm like, like, man, I feel like a lot lizard, which is like a prostitute for, truck drivers. I'm like, it's like I'm a lot lizard, but I don't have to have sex with them. Like totally different content, of just living this adventure. But it was because of that cash coming in from like 10 friends and family that I'm showing them what they're doing. And I love delivering that because I'm like, this is making a huge difference for their lives. And then as soon as those videos took off, it was like, oh, well, there's more donations. So it became less about me just going on these wild adventures and more about, okay, how do I spend this money? And then the more I started spending the money, it got really fun because I think everyone, especially if you're born into a poor family, like I'm a trailer park boy from northern Alberta. I lived in a trailer for quite a few years in Beaver Lodge, Alberta, in a little shitty trailer park up on the hill. And so as a kid who's poor, and even wealthy people, you grow up as a kid and you dream about like, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to have my own business. And then as I get older, I've always had like, oh, it would be so cool one day to have my own coffee shop. It'd be so cool to have, what I mean. We kind of get these like throughout our lives, like, oh, that'd be cool to have this. So now it's like my time to live vicariously through other people. We built tons of like little coffee shops for families, little stores in their house. We've done things that are really wild, from, like I said, spending $500,000 on a little group of people building these badass Airbnb bungalows, building washing machine, or what are those called? Like buying a bunch of washing machines in a really cool spot, in different tourist areas, to buying motorcycle rental companies. I bought a brand new semi truck for a guy, one of the guys that first took me around during COVID when I was just starting out, and you know,
Hmm.
it was it's cool, and so now that's kind of where it's that entrepreneurial dream that I've had, where now I'm just like I'm building it for other people, and I'm learning more and more about the more you genuinely give without expecting anything in return. You know what I mean? Like there's been so many times where a lot of my friends will be like, yo, when you set up these businesses, you should just take 10%, even if it's for the foundation. And a lot of it has just been like 99.9%. There, we have no strings attached. You know what I mean? Like, no strings. When we give a house, the house is theirs. When we give, and the only thing why I say 99 is now, whenever I use a child's image, and that comes from kind of a rocky family, uh, I now put it in. It stays. We have a contract where it stays in the foundation's name until that child turns 18. Just because I don't want to have parents fall into addiction, sell the home, and then those kids are just, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
have nothing when they grow up.
I see.
But
Okay. Yeah, I
yeah,
was
the
thinking
more.
that there's probably ways to
Uh
structure it where you can kind of create incentives. But I actually wanted to point out one thing about what you do, um, which is that I'm sure everyone has seen these videos where they give homeless people haircuts and this kind of thing, and it's sort of like it feels ingenuine when a lot of people do it, but I feel like when you do it, it feels more genuine, and it's not the same kind of thing where sometimes when I see these videos where they give like a homeless guy like an outfit or something, sometimes it feels like the YouTuber is benefiting more than the actual homeless guy, or it doesn't feel like it's coming from the right place. But when you do it, I don't know if it's just partly due to the way that you film it, or but it just overall comes across much more genuine, and I think that that's what's resonating with the audience and why you're able to raise funds and get these donations.
Yeah, I'm reading a new book right now from I think it's Tim Ferriss, called Ego is the Enemy, and it kind of like reaffirms of, you
Ryan Holiday.
know what was that?
I think it's Ryan Holiday.
Ryan Holiday.
Uh,
Yeah, so you know the book, right? It kind of reaffirms the whole concept of when you do something generally for yourself, there's not as much longevity, right? Like we can look back at when YouTube really started getting popular. There was so many I mean, from the beginning of time, right? Like any celebrity, whether you're an artist, an actor, what comes up must come down. You're famous one day, then it's nothing the next day. I feel like when you're doing something genuinely cool for humanity, you have to, and it's hard sometimes, like take yourself out of it and focus more on what you're actually doing. And that's kind of been, the thing with us. And I'll give thanks to my partner, my soon to be wife. She's been here since the beginning. I met her in Ecuador when I was stuck there. And she's always like, we don't need to film ourselves. Who cares? Why do we want people to recognize us? You know what I mean? Like, where normally, hey guys, with your guys' donation, or like, hey guys, today I am building a new house for a family. We filmed a few things like that, and she's like, ew, gross. It's a really grounding relationship, and that perspective, has really, really helped us. Like I've had a few friends that get 10, 20 times more views than me right now, and they're like, you know, um, like how the hell did you raise $1 million in 2 months? And I give thanks. For me, is through prayer, right? I'm a big believer in having faith can really move mountains. Like when you really pray, like the God, some people say the universe, I say God just puts things. It's like a force out there, like gravity. It's an unseen force that really works when you truly pray without not expecting anything in return, but you have a vision and a goal to be able to help someone else. That's when prayer really works. And
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download, or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by BitRefill. BitRefill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. If you are a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Haltze, the author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond $20K a month. So what is job stacking? It's this idea of working multiple remote jobs. You might have heard Rolf, he's worked 5, 7, even 9 remote jobs at the same time before. And by the way, job stacking works equally well for non-technical roles. So no, it's not just for the nerds. So if you're ready to job stack, then book a discovery call with Job Stacking and see how they can double your income in just 9 weeks. In the show notes in the description, there will be a link where you can book a call directly on the Calendly of Job Stacking and be talking with them as early as tomorrow about how to double your income as quickly as possible. I'd love to hear some strategies about fundraising then. You've probably learned about how to get better at fundraising over time.
Yeah, trial and error. My biggest thing, like I said when we're maybe 10 minutes talking, is focus on, whatever you want to do, right? So many people want to help dogs out. And they're like, Aaron, help me fundraise to open a dog shelter. And I'm just like, well, I'm not really going to do that because I know that you're probably after experience. And Chad knows about this. Me and Chad, we built a freaking animal shelter, dude. We built Cat Mansion. Ask Chad about Cat Mansion. We built a cat mansion for
Okay.
for this for this woman in Paraguay, dude. And it was so cool, bro. It was so cool. But my experience from seeing so many animal shelters is like I've walked into animal shelters where people got money and they built it, and it's like fucking like 200 dogs starving to death, just humping on each other, no food. I'm like, it looks like a freaking like something you'd see out of World War II with a bunch of, you know what I mean, like just starving dogs in a concentration camp, and in these poor countries, and it's like, and I'm not talking smack on it, I'm just saying you got to figure out a way where the funds can continuously come in. It's like saying, I don't have any money, but I'm going to go collect all of the old hungry people and put them in one room and then not feed them. Does that make sense? And so this is the purpose of creating an engine to your work. This is the purpose why we are creating restaurants, Airbnbs, hotels. When I say Airbnb, it's just rental unit, right? Uh, so it can continuously fund these people's salaries. So it continuously, you know what I mean? Feed. So every single night, I can bring food from our farms to our old folks' homes that we're building. We have 6 women's shelters, and for abandoned children and women whose husbands attempt to murder them. That shit is very expensive. We have to pay. We have psychiatrists. We have therapists. We have medicine, toilet paper. We have to pay the electricity. We have to pay the lights, the internet, the security. You know what I mean? This costs a lot of money. And I don't have to, from here on out, be like, guys, I need more money. I need more money. I need more money. Because desperation is a stinky cologne, right? We all know that. When you're trying to date someone, someone's trying to date you, it's the more desperate you are, the more people kind of back up, you know? So keeping that in mind with fundraising is, what do you want to fundraise for? So if you want to fundraise for an animal shelter, my advice is find a dog that's on the brink of death. Ribs, cute, it's scared. And I'm saying this because I've seen so many videos go viral on this. And then you grab that dog and you feed the dog, you show the dog love, and then you show a before and after. And this is going to take time. It might take you 3 months. And then all of a sudden the dog's fur is all beautiful. The dog trusts you. The dog's loving on you. The dog's licking your face. And that dog is your mascot to build your animal shelter. It's like, and everyone knows this. Look at insurance companies. They have Geico. They have a little lizard. Most brands understand the purpose of a mascot. It's why schools have their mascots. It's why, pro hockey teams and basketball teams, they all have like a mascot, right? It's
Hmm.
very important. There's something psychological about that for people to say, that's my guy right there. That's my dog, and then as you build your animal shelter, I'm saying this, if I built an animal shelter, I'd look for a really cool piece of land where they can live comfortable, where it's pretty. It might cost a little bit more money. And then on that animal shelter, I would build a small hostel, and I've seen people do this before. You build maybe 10 rooms. And now, as you're growing on social media, I would say you guys can come volunteer. It's $50 a night. And that $50 a night is going to help you. You get 10 people in there. We do a 3-week adoption process where you're going to help us wash the dogs, walk the dogs, find more dogs in the street, feed the dogs, get the dog's genitals cut off from whatever that's called. I'm not a dog expert. What is that called where they can't have animals no more? You know what I mean? So now you have a machine now you have the volunteers that are coming back. And that's going to be able to make it so it's like, I don't have money for the animals. And now they're not living in an animal concentration camp. And you could do that with anything, you know? So yeah, that's my biggest advice. Look for your superstar, whether it's an animal, whether it's a human. My
Mm,
most viral video was the coconut man, and I didn't use his image too much. We got hundreds of millions of views from him on all the platforms. It was like a man. He's like, I don't have a place to live, but I'm happy. He's a very faithful guy in his beliefs in God, and we ended up buying him a beautiful home, gave him a retirement plan, gave him a we built him like a second little rent like a house, bought him a brand new truck for his son to have a cement delivery company now. We gave his daughter like a little tiny sewing company in the house, and bought a bunch of freeze. She sells choco bananas and ice creams from her house, and it makes pretty good money. Um, we didn't just take this old man. Never take a person when you know you're gonna make a fuck ton of money. Do not use a person's image to benefit just for yourself. If you know you're making a lot of money on that, it's like you gotta take care of that person, and that's how you build longevity. And for me too, it's not even about longevity. It's like that's the humane thing to do, right? I used a little girl, and we raised $200,000, and a lot of people would just run commercials and ads and ads and ads on that, and a lot of people do that in big corporations and NGOs, and and it's like those little kids are still living in fucking huts, getting nothing over. With us,
mm,
it's like Nicole, the girl with the elephant leg. She has it. You can come here now and you can see her beautiful house, beautiful home. There a lot of land they could probably sell for 150, $200,000. It's amazingly prime A real estate. It's right in front of her school. We gave her dad a job. You know what I mean? So it's like there is no, what's that word called where you kind of take advantage of someone, you make a lot of money. There's a word for it.
aprovechar.
Aprovechar, yeah, but it's like it's a word in English that I can't think of. But people see through that, and people see that, and that's why like I don't have to get millions and millions of views, but people know what we're doing. They trust it, and we're and it's working. Teach people how to fish.
Exactly. Teach people how to fish. I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking, are you drawing a salary at this point, or how do you sustain yourself?
Yeah, I draw. I didn't pay myself for the first like 2.5 3 years. Just this last year, I finally started paying myself because my we just got in a big fight with Catalina. We have a baby now. She is still one, turning two, here in a little bit. And it's like all of this stuff that we have is amazing and beautiful, but if I die, when I die, it's like what will I have to give her? So now I'm paying myself a $6,000 salary. It has to run through the United States, unfortunately, because I'm using a U.S. passport, and so it
Right.
really comes out to like $4,200 a month.
Hmm.
But that's what I do, and it doesn't matter like it, everything that comes in. Like for example, we've had Coca-Cola pay us. We've had a lot of sponsors that pay us good money, and the reason that we're able to build these farms that are costing us millions of dollars is because I put everything through the foundation to be able to build this. Because this is also my idea, where in the future, it's like my child, she can, if she wants to, she can work for the foundation and manage food farms that feed people all over the world and be able to pull a small salary from that and serve. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
And if your significant other is Ecuadorian, was your daughter born in Ecuador or in El Salvador?
She was born in Ecuador.
And so, how did you decide to? It seems like base up in El Salvador.
It seems what?
Like you're really basing up El Salvador because I know you were going everywhere for years. You were like in Paraguay one month, another
Yeah.
country the next month. Seems like you've slowed down on the popping around and you've kind of based up in El Salvador.
Yeah, I would totally keep traveling, but my my wife just got super burned out. I mean, she had a C-section, you know what I mean? And we probably traveled back and forth maybe like 15, 20 times within like a year and a half. And it was really hard on her body. She had a little bit of postpartum. And so for her health, we have to like build a nest. She wanted to do it in Ecuador, but Ecuador is just really dangerous right now. It's like you walk outside and people are just driving on motorcycles with guns, robbing people. It's becoming the new norm. And so, we're like, okay, let's focus on El Salvador. It's really safe for our kid. We have this beautiful piece of property that we're developing. So El Salvador is the spot right now. Even though we work everywhere, our women's shelters are based in Ecuador. We have about 200 acres of really good farmland in Ecuador, but this here is the primary base.
And so you chose El Salvador primarily due to safety and opportunity?
Safety and opportunity, mostly safety. You can go anywhere in El Salvador. When we got here in 2021, it wasn't that way. I had people flash guns at me, gang signs, but now it's really cool. It's very very safe, and yeah, it's I don't know. I don't even know how to put it. It's El Salvador is just really
Mm.
rad. There's a lot of new people moving here from around the world. I went to the beach over the weekend to do a podcast with Max Kaiser. He's going to be working
Mhm.
on our retirement plan for our employees through Bitcoin. And while I stayed on this beach, I went to a farmer's market that was so rad. I met all these families from like New Zealand that moved here, from the States, a bunch from Canada, and it's like this group of families that are moving down that are just kind of getting fed up about the laws in their countries, about being silenced online. I feel like a lot of the governments are wanting to control more and more and more of their people, and so El Salvador right now is kind of like a hub for a new sense of freedom for a lot of these people. So it's cool. It's kind of creating a really rad community of these people, and all of them do really rad stuff. Like some of them come with a lot of experience on how to make organic soaps, honey. We met these people from Germany that make badass bread. I met this French family that make amazing desserts. And they give jobs in their little shops to people, and they train them how to do these things, and it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty tempted to move to El Salvador myself.
Yeah, it's rad.
So
You visited here though, right?
I have not. I'm trying to go. Don't you have a thing launching in November? I was thinking I might come out for that.
We're gonna launch in December. I'm hoping to be finished by then. But whenever you come out, man. I think we will launch our hotel. Like people will be able to book in January, but I think maybe November we'll have a few of the rooms already done. And basically, like if we're done before that, like all of December, I'm just gonna give rooms out for free for whether it's influencers, friends, for them to do reviews, post pictures online. Um, just tell me, Aaron, I love the pillows. Aaron, I don't like the soap. Aaron, because that's the thing I hate is like when you go to a place, for example, I went to the beach in El Salvador and it was expensive. It was $350 a night, 375 a night for this apartment.
Wow.
It's getting expensive in El Salvador. And the pillows were so shitty. You know those thin pillows where it's like you might as well be sleeping on a sheet. It's like a hostel pillow. And so I'm like, how can you charge that much money for the damn hostel pillow? And the soap they used was the cheap hand soap you could buy in the dollar store. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. So I want this to be a 5-star experience when people come here, where it's not too expensive. And so if you're gonna come down, man, stop by our farm, and if a room is open, I'll let you stay in one. You can tell me what you think.
I'm down. I'm curious how you manage your messages, both from you probably get so many messages from local Latinos, people all over Latin America, telling you, I don't want to say sob stories, but telling you about their situations, and then you have to
Yeah.
kind of decide if what to
Yes.
pursue. And I'm tell me about that a bit.
Thousands, sometimes thousands a day between all the platforms. Especially when when videos are viral, or if I'm pumping out content, we can get 4 or 5 thousand DMs a day. And in total we're coming up on 100 employees soon here.
Wow.
So I have people that respond to my Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, that respond to the DMs, and then if it's something that they think is important, or a sponsor, or someone that I've met through here. I'm like, oh, DM me. I have them put those in primary. So then that's where I'll kind of jump on and communicate with them. And it's a really cool It's helped us raise probably millions of dollars from companies or family funds or people that want to do a substantial tax write-off, where they go in there and they chat with them and explain the process. So that's the process that we have here.
Okay, cool. And I guess at this point, how do you choose your next projects? I guess, are you kind of focused on what's in front of you in El Salvador, or do you respond to what you're receiving in the messages?
Right now, we just tell them sorry. That we're really focused because we have to finish this project in El Salvador. It's costing us millions of dollars, and we want to ensure its success. Otherwise, it wouldn't be responsible with donations. We want to make sure that people are going to actually be able to keep their jobs, and whether it's a good
Mhm.
economy, bad economy, and that's why we're not just focused on tourism. We're also focusing on the production of blueberries, strawberries, food, that we could sell in markets. Um, and as soon as this is built, I'll be able to really start doing more fundraisers specifically for families. But other than that, I'm just like, I'm the only one who's going out and doing fundraisers. So it's not like people send us a sob story and then I go, okay, I'll be there this time. I'm going to build you a house. It's always a surprise. So
Oh,
if
it's a
people are writing
surprise.
me, telling me their sob story, there's a 99.9% chance I'm never going to show up. We just tell them I'm sorry. We're not the Red Cross. We're not your government. It's like winning the lottery. And we just tell them that in a nice way. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
And so you mentioned you're looking to structure things now where you're setting people up for long-term success and teaching them how to fish. What kind of works as a structure? You alluded to it a little bit before. So let's say you buy the washing machines or whatever it is. Do you try to like give them do you ask for like reporting afterwards? I know you mentioned no strings attached, but do you try to like, I don't know, hold them to metrics in any way, or as you said, make sure they don't just sell the whole thing off? How do you kind of ensure long-term success?
So with that, it's. I mean, the best thing that we could do now is we really get to know the person. We find out where their skills are. So, for example, at the beginning when I had no idea what I was doing, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna give them a hot dog stand. Even though they know how to make hamburgers, I buy them everything for hot dogs because that's what I thought would be cool. So now it's like finding out what they do. So, for example, one of the guys that showed me around, I stayed with his grandma during when I'm a backpacker living on a shitty mattress in the dump. He was already a truck driver in Ecuador, making like 300-400 bucks a month, and I knew that, and on every truck driver in Latin America's dream is to own their own truck one day, but it's never going to happen because you get paid shit. And so that was something where it's like, okay, cool, I'm going to go buy him a 2023, this is in 2022, so the newest truck that was come out like a year ahead. I bought him a brand new semi truck. We put a box on it, 15 tonelada, and that was something where now it's like I call him up and he cries every time he talks to me. It's been over a year. He's like, Aaron, you have no idea how you changed my life. My son goes to a good school now. I'm saving up for university. No bank loans, not paying crazy interest to these sharks and these banks. That is how we set them up for success. Figure out what they're really good at. And it's like a 90% success rate. But that's one of the ways. The other thing too is you can never say, I failed because I didn't set them up enough. You know what I mean? There's because you look at, how many wealthy families are out there where they're like, I'm going to pass this business down to my son. They force him to go to university, to the best schools, and then the son just fucks it off or makes mistakes and ruins the family business. That happens all the time. You know what I mean? People win the lotteries and it goes to shit. People go study their entire lives in a university and then they go and play in the NHL or they go and play in the NBA or the NFL. And how many of these pro sports players end up bankrupt? You know what I mean? Just a few years later. So in
Hmm.
that sense, it's like nothing there's no 100% surefire way that someone's not going to mess up their blessing. But that's my biggest advice. If you're gonna help someone out, find out what they're already good at, find out what their passions are, and base it around that. And don't just hand them a wad of cash, because that will it will ruin them. It will. We never do that. It's like, if I raise $70,000 for a family, I'm gonna figure out how to spend that money, even if it means buying a couch that costs $1,000 more. Because I've noticed, when you give large amounts of money to a really poor family in these countries, their aunts, their uncles, everyone comes at them with their own problems. Hey, like, I need dialysis, like real problems. My roof is falling apart, da 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 da. And then they begin to say, I need this for my family. No, no, no. And all of a sudden, that resentment comes, that hatred comes, and then no one talks to them anymore. They get depressed. Sometimes they'll turn to the bottle, or they'll lend all the money out. They'll have no money, and then they'll come back begging for more money. I need more money. I need more money, please. I'm like, yo, I just,
Mm.
we gave you like $80,000. You know what I mean? So yeah, figure out what they're good at and build them a business. That's the best way to help someone.
Mhm. I'm curious, have you ever done like Asia or other regions of the world, or are you 100% Latin America?
I'm 100% Latin America. Maybe in the future, I wanted to do that. You know what I mean? Like, right as I met my girl, but now that we have a baby, it's like we're a Latin foundation. But maybe, in 5, 10 years we'll expand.
No, I like it. I mean, we're all about Latin America too in my Latin life, so
Yeah,
it
Latin,
works
Latin
out.
America's just badass, dude. You know how it is.
Tell me about that real quick. What do you like more about Latin America compared to the US or
Um, I like the culture of family. Before, it's like, coming from North America, a bunch of Mexicans, like 20 of them getting out of a car, or a bunch of Mexicans. Oh, you speak Spanish, you're a Mexican. No, 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 no. We have these, like, pretty racist stereotypes that are just burned into our minds. But when you actually live down here, it's kind of beautiful. It's like, everyone loves each other. You know, they don't. There's way less people saying, "Oh, you're old. We're gonna put you in an old folks home." No, it's like, you take care of the grandparents, and they're like, everyone goes to the grandparents, the elders, for advice. You know what I mean? They're treated like children. That's the best way to put it. The elders are treated like children, in a sense of where they get that love and respect. When a child is born in the States, it's like everyone loves the baby, to show the baby off. You take the baby everywhere with you. But the old people are like, let's put them in an old folks' home. And in Latin America, it's like, you've seen this, right? It's like, oh, let's
Mhm.
bring our grandma. Everyone pushes the grandma in the wheelchair to go to the mall, or to go shopping, or to go to restaurants. And you don't
Yep.
see that as much, I think, in North America, and that kind of entitles in everything, where it's a more sense of community and family. And in North
Mhm.
America, it's more, I'm gonna leave the house at 18, I'm gonna go make money, and then you're in the rat race. I gotta make more money, I gotta make more money, I gotta make more money. It's like, for fucking what? You know what I mean? Because you're just paying credit card debt, you're just paying bills, you're paying taxes. Fucking amen. How many taxes are we paying? Like, you buy a home and you're paying more property taxes. You're paying more, the government's going to raise, oh, your house is valued at this now, and now you're paying more taxes. Where it's like, down here, man, I'm paying a couple bucks a year for massive property for a foundation. Like, you can live way more comfortable down here too. And that's the whole purpose, is we want to train people. We have the world's not the same anymore.
Mhm.
How can we train people in Latin America to make money using the internet? We're living in a different age, and we need to realize that there's thousands of people making $5,000 $10,000 a month in every city in Latin America, because now they're TikTokers. Now they're English teachers, and they have 500 students paying $10 a month, which people can afford that in these poor countries. You know, it's yeah, there's a million reasons, but that's basically it.
Yeah, maybe you saw me tweeting about this actually this week about how there's really no property taxes in Latin America. Nayib Bukele has actually tweeted about it as well, saying, "Come to El Salvador, there's no property tax." And even in Mexico, it's very, very
Yeah.
little. Actually, a real estate agent literally just texted me saying 950 pesos per year for garbage, which is $50 a year. And that's predial as well, which I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure is property tax. So property tax, it says predial y basura, 950 pesos anual. So $50 a year for property tax and garbage. Agua, 300 pesos mensual, which is $15 a month for water. And then uh, electricity between 550 pesos to 800 pesos bimestrial, which I guess is every 2 months. So that would be like 28 to $40 every 2 months for electricity. So I think people, Americans, don't realize that, like, even after you've paid off your home, in a lot of ways you really don't own it, and you have to keep working because your property taxes are like $20,000 a year and this and that.
Yeah.
So I think it really contributes to, in Latin America, kind of how people are able to just enjoy life and actually maintain properties multi-generationally. Because in the US, if you like inherit a $2 million property, you're like, holy crap, I can barely even afford to maintain this house.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like I have friends in California they're like, I finally paid off my townhouse. One of my buddies has a townhouse in a really wealthy area, and dude is paying I think $1,200 a month in taxes a month for the area that he's living in. With HOA fees and like HOA fees, property taxes, it's about 2,000. I think as he said, it's like $2,000 a month. It's insane, dude. You don't own shit. You know, and it's like, how can you really ever retire? Because those numbers are just going to continue to go up and up and up. You can never really rest. You constantly have to pay this. So I'm 100% on board. And like I said, with technology now and AI coming out, it's the American dream is no longer just the America, as in the United States of America. It's the Americas, and people can open up beautiful coffee shops in nice areas of Paraguay, for example,
Mhm.
where the prices are about the same. You have the wealthy families there that are used to paying $4 for a nice coffee, right? $6 for a nice little dessert. Pretty similar prices to the States in some places. And then, but you can have your beautiful home like outside of the city, and and just live a really comfortable life. Uh, yeah, dude, it's changing, and I have a lot of friends that are coming down and seeing this, and I now have friends that have properties in Colombia, properties in, you know, all over the place, and we never know what's going to happen in the future. Some people say, well, I don't know, these countries are always so swing with their unstable politics. Um, which is true. You know what I mean? Like that's happened in Mexico where they took away all the foreigners' investments, years ago. But at the same time, it's like we don't know if we're going to go into a nuclear world war, in a few years, which could easily happen. We don't know if the consequences of AI gets into the wrong hands could cause things that we can't even fathom right now. That'll just fuck up society forever. We don't know if cancer is going to hit us tomorrow. You know what I mean? We're constantly in fear of just going out and doing new things and trying new things. And I had that fear for living down here at first. And I'm like, if I wouldn't have faced that fear, I never would have met the love of my life and have the most beautiful daughter on the planet. You know what I mean? Like by facing that fear. And that's what I tell people. We never know what's going to happen the day of tomorrow, but you realize we are meant to live in the moment, constantly preparing for tomorrow. And for me, it's like instead of just focusing on preparing for retirement, for me, my number one goal in life is to prepare for my spiritual retirement. How am I preparing my soul to return back to the real home? Where for
Mm.
all of us, whether you're atheist or not, when we die, either it's going to be blackout, nothing, or it's going to be okay. Wow, our souls are eternal, and And obviously, coming to this earth is a beautiful opportunity to learn and grow and to experience. And I think that's, if you can find a place where you're living under less stress, less financial burden, less, in another
Hmm.
country, it's not about, we should stop identifying so much with I am American, I am Canadian, I am whatever, and say I am a human who's enjoying life, showing my family love, constantly repenting. And when I say repenting, it's like, you know, for me, as my Christian beliefs is, when people think of repentance, like I don't believe in religion. For me, repenting is, I was grumpy because I'm stressed at life. Anytime you're grumpy or angry at someone, it's because we're hurting inside from whatever reason. We're stressed. So if I treated someone like shit, like a waiter, I'm like, I'm mouthy to a waiter, which happens all the time, right? Sometimes I'm just a fucking asshole to people when I'm so stressed out. And repentance to me is realizing that, like, how can I treat a complete stranger with love and respect, even though they tested my patience, and I'm under the stress? That to me is what life is about. That's kind of the repentance for me. Um, is when our souls are being stretched under the pressure of life, and opportunities come for us to explode and to react and to treat people with disrespect. How can we say, okay, wow, I want to, so that for me is the biggest thing. It's more important than Bitcoin. It's more important than politics. It's more important than the country you live in. But here in the Americas, there's more sense of family. And I want my family to be raised, my daughter, my future kids to be raised around people that honor their parents, that honor family, that honor, and in that I'll teach them anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on all that.
Last question for you, which was actually suggested to me by El Chad. Do
We love
you
you, El Chad.
believe in karma?
Do I believe in karma? I 100% believe in karma. Maybe not in the same sense as other people, but I think there's always a cause and effect. You throw a rock into a lake, and it's going. The karma of that is you're going to see the ripples. It'll have its butterfly effect in whatever way that we can't see. But when in my life, I've seen beautiful karma take place. When I have kind of two chapters. I look back at chapter one, when I'm drinking and I'm smoking, the karma of, I started developing severe anxiety, panic attacks, people screwing me over, people, like just back to back to back. And now where I just focus on selflessly building people with financial freedom and breaking cycles of poverty, it's like so many things just come into my life, like beautiful blessings, even when it's like times of just where I'm kind of stressed out and I just feel an overwhelming sense of peace and gratitude in my life, where I feel it's just kind of like cleansing my soul, washing my soul. And that, it, to me, is karma, and I think karma is not only just like now, it's things that our children will see. It's things that, we won't maybe even be able to see in our own lifetime, but 100% there's cause and effect in all things, which to me is just this karma.
I definitely
Yeah.
agree. So the primary website is MurphsLifeFoundation.com.
Yep. Correct.
Where else do you want to direct people's attention? Take this moment to share any message you want to communicate with the audience, how they can support, all that good stuff.
Yeah, MurphsLifeFoundation.com. You can go to any platform, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, and just type in Murphs Life, MURPHS, Murphs Life, LIFE, one word. You can see in the our bio, the way to donate. And we have all the ways to donate, from PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Patreon. You can donate monthly. You can donate one time. You can donate Bitcoin. You can donate stocks, whatever. We're a 501c3, so it's a tax write off. And yeah, that's basically it. And I appreciate you for having me on here. Cool chatting with you, and yeah, appreciate you, man.
Thank you. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, our guest today, Murphs Life. There'll be a link in the description where you can get over to MurphsLifeFoundation.com and all his other accounts. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, X, YouTube. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Murphs Life, and you won't want to miss an episode. So thanks again to Aaron, and thank you to the audience for listening. Ciao for now. Hey guys, quick note at the end of the episode here. If you made it this far, you might be interested in working with My Latin Life personally to make progress on your internationalization plan. So whether the next step for you is getting residency in Latin America, lowering your taxes, choosing the best country, maybe a little birth tourism, whatever the next step is for you, of course, My Latin Life can help. We've helped people in their 20s, their 40s, their 60s, because I truly believe that Latin America has something to offer people at every stage of life. So if you want to become our VIP client, if you want to work with Vance, myself directly, book a call. There will be a link in the description. There will be a small fee for the initial consultation, and we do that to filter out the time wasters and focus on the best of the best clients. But if you're listening to this podcast and you made it all the way through the episode, I know you're the best of the best. But we're ready to work with you. So book that call. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the My Latin Life podcast, and we'll catch you in the next one.